Well, hello, boys and girls, and welcome back to Story Time with Mr. S. It is Cat and Dog Week, the week that I read you stories about cats and dogs. That's why I got these little cuties behind me all week. The book I'm going to read you today is the book that I saved for last. And you're saying, but Mr. S, it's only Thursday. Because this is a long book, and I'm going to read it to you in two parts. It actually is kind of a mini chapter book. It has 3 different chapters, but I'm going to read you one today and 2 of them tomorrow. Now, this book is very special to me. It's called The Fire Cat, and it was written and illustrated by Esther Averill. But it's special to me because when my kids were really little, I used to read this to them as a bedtime story, and they loved it so much, they used to ask for it every single night. So this is, it's kind of a good memory reading this book. So I'm going to share it with you guys, and we're going to read half of it today and half of it tomorrow. So here we go. It's called The Fire Cat, and the first chapter is called Pickles. Pickles, yeah, Pickles. All right, once upon a time, there was a yellow cat with black spots in his fur, and his name was Pickles. And that's Pickles right there. Pickles was a young cat. His paws were big, and he wished to do big things with them. But where could Pickles find anything to do? Pickles lived in a barrel, and the barrel was all that he had for a home. Pickles' barrel was in an old yard. There was nothing big to do. So, what did Pickles do? Well, Pickles ran after little cats. He ran after every little cat that came into the yard, and he chased the little cat out of the yard. This was a bad thing, but it was all that Pickles could find to do. And there he is chasing the little cats. Next to Pickles' yard was a house, and in the house lived many cats. They would call out to Pickles, "You are bad. You cannot be our friend." But Pickles did have a friend in the house. His friend was Mrs. Goodkind. Every day Mrs. Goodkind came into the yard and gave Pickles something to eat. One day Mrs. Goodkind said, "Pickles, you are not a bad cat. You are not a good cat. You are good and bad. You are bad and good. You are a mixed-up cat. What you need is a good home, and then you will be good." Mrs. Goodkind picked up the mixed-up cat, and she took him into her house to live. In Mrs. Goodkind's home, there was a pretty chair for Pickles to sit on. There were toys for him to play with. But Pickles did not want to sit on a pretty chair. He did not want to play with toys. So he ran back to his barrel in the yard, and he began to chase the little cats again. Mrs. Goodkind said to Pickles, "Things cannot go on like this. Something will happen." The next day, Pickles chased a little cat up into an old tree. He climbed up after her. Pickles sat up in the tree near the little cat. He would not let that little cat climb down. Oh boy. After a time, the wind began to blow. It blew and it blew and it blew, and the rain came down hard. It came down harder and harder. At last, Pickles let the little cat climb down and go home. Pickles wanted to climb down too. He wanted to get back into his barrel, but he could not climb down. Sometimes this happens to a cat, and it happened to Pickles. Mrs. Goodkind ran to the tree. "Pickles," she called, "please try to come down." But Pickles could not climb down. Mrs. Goodkind ran into her house. Pickles could see her by the window. She was talking on the telephone. She called out to Pickles, "The firemen are coming." A fire truck came up the street and stopped at Pickles' yard. 3 firemen jumped down from the truck. So, boys and girls, what do you think the firemen are going to do for Pickles? How can firemen, who usually put out fires, right? That's what a fireman is. How could they get Pickles out of the tree? What do you think? Well, they have these big ladders. Do you think they might use their ladders to get up into the tree? I certainly hope so. I would hate for poor Pickles to be stuck up there. Mrs. Goodkind came out of her house. She ran up to the fireman and pointed up to Pickles. The fireman put a ladder against the tree. Ah, there we are. One of the firemen began to climb up the ladder. The fireman climbed up to the top of the ladder. "Come, cat," he said to Pickles. "Let me help you." The fireman picked up Pickles and tucked him into his coat. Then he took Pickles down the ladder, down to Mrs. Goodkind. "Mrs. Goodkind," said the fireman, "is this your cat?" "Oh, no, Joe," said Mrs. Goodkind. "Pickles has no home, and he does not want to live with me." "Why not?" said Joe. Mrs. Goodkind answered, "My home is too little for Pickles. Pickles is a cat who wishes to do big things, and someday he will do them. Why, just look at his paws." Pickles put out a paw for Joe to see. "My goodness, Pickles," said Joe, "what big paws you have." Pickles looked at Joe and said the one word he could say, "Meow." And Joe could see that Pickles wanted something very much. Joe gave Pickles a pat. "Pickles," he said, "I will take you to our firehouse. Maybe our chief will let you stay." And that, boys and girls, is the end of the first chapter. So, wow, such amazing things happened. We met Pickles, and we saw that Pickles was not a good cat. But Pickles was not really a bad cat. Pickles was just a cat with nothing to do. And because he had nothing to do, he chased all the little cats out of the yard. Sometimes it's hard when you have nothing to do. Like right now, we're all stuck at home. I know because I have two boys at home and they have nothing to do, so they chase each other around the yard, kind of like Pickles and the little cat. Anyway, Pickles chased that cat up a tree and got stuck, and then Joe the fireman came and rescued him and saw that he wanted to do big things. So Joe said, "I will take you to our firehouse. Maybe our chief will let you live there." We're going to find out tomorrow just what happens when Joe takes Pickles back to the firehouse. I hope you like this story. I know I like it. I haven't read it in many years, and it's bringing back a lot of good memories of my children when they were little. So, I hope you like this story. If you did like it, you want to tell me if you think the chief is going to let Pickles stay, leave me a comment on my Google Classroom page. And don't forget to click the turned in button when you're done so I know you saw it. And don't forget to check back tomorrow for the exciting second half of The Fire Cat. I hope to see you guys tomorrow, boys and girls.